You don't ask, you attract. And what follows isn't negotiation, it's surrender. Welcome to Stoic Reflections, where modern masculinity meets ancient emotional mastery. This isn't about tricks, it's not about lines or tactics. It's about becoming the kind of man whose very presence shifts the energy in the room, a man who doesn't chase attention but commands it without saying a word. You've been told to ask for permission, to wait for signs, to make sure she's comfortable before you move. And while the intention is noble, the result is almost always the same. You lose the moment. Because deep down, women don't want to guide the dance. They want to be led by a man who knows who he is. A man who carries silence like a sword. A man who doesn't seek validation because he already is the answer. This is about psychological seduction at the highest level. Not manipulation, but emotional leadership. Not pressure, but presence. Not dominance, but gravity. In this video, you're going to feel what real power tastes like. You'll learn why women don't surrender to men who ask for intimacy. They surrender to the man who awakens it in them. How to stop convincing and start creating. And how the most magnetic men don't beg for yes. They create a moment so safe, so charged, so inevitable that no simply dissolves. This isn't about words, it's about energy. It's about the art of leading her without touching her. And it's about unlocking the truth that every grounded man already knows. You don't ask, you attract. And when she feels that, she doesn't need to be convinced. She chooses you, freely, breathlessly, completely. Let's begin. 1. You don't ask for intimacy, you awaken it. You've been taught to be respectful, to wait for signs, to make sure she's ready before you act. And while the intention is noble, the effect is devastating, because women don't surrender to the man who asks for intimacy. They surrender to the man who creates it, not through pressure. Not through persuasion, but through presence. She doesn't want to be convinced. She wants to be led. She wants to feel the pull of a man who doesn't need her permission, because his presence already is permission. Not because he forces it, but because he makes resistance unnecessary. A man like that doesn't beg for closeness. He builds tension so naturally that it feels inevitable, like gravity, like destiny. Like something she didn't agree to with words, but something her body already decided long before her mind caught up. This is where most men lose the game. The moment you ask for intimacy, you give away your power. Not because desire is wrong, but because needing her approval to act on that desire makes her body say no, even if her heart wanted to say yes. Here's the secret no one teaches you. You don't ask a woman for intimacy. You create a space where her resistance dies on its own. Not through force, but through emotional leadership, through the way you slow your speech, the way you let silence speak louder than words, the way your eyes hold her, not aggressively but deeply, like you already know what's going to happen, and you're not in a rush to get there. You don't touch her with your hands first, you touch her with intention, with energy, with certainty. Because women don't say yes when they're asked, they say yes when they're moved. And the man who knows this, he doesn't use words like requests, he speaks in invitation. His voice is slow, his tone grounded, his presence laced with danger and safety at the same time. He doesn't say, "Can I kiss you?" He says, "I like the way you look at me when you think I'm not noticing." Or, "I don't want to rush this. I want to see if your energy matches mine." See the difference? He doesn't chase, he pulls. Every movement whispers, "I'm not asking, I'm aligning, and if you feel it too, come closer." Because when she feels safe, when she feels led, she offers herself willingly, not out of obligation, but out of desire, out of craving, out of trust. And when she does, it won't feel like a decision, it will feel like gravity, like a moment that was always meant to happen. That's not manipulation, that's not performance, that's Stoic seduction, and it never fails. 2. The trick is making her think it's her idea. If you want her to want you, stop trying to convince her. Stop selling yourself. Start becoming the kind of man who understands one primal truth. Women don't surrender to pressure, they surrender to permission. But here's the paradox. The man who gives her that permission, he never makes it obvious. He doesn't claim authority. He simply creates an emotional atmosphere where surrender feels like the natural response. The key? She must feel like it was her idea, that she crossed the line, not you, that her desire took over, unstoppable, unfiltered, unapologetic. Because when it feels like it was her idea, there's no guilt, no shame, no second guessing, just freedom. And freedom is the gateway to her most raw, honest, feminine expression. This is where most men crumble. They try to escalate through logic. They ask questions that force her into her mind instead of her body. Can I kiss you? Do you want to come over? Do you like this? And just like that, she snaps out of the moment. She starts analyzing, thinking, weighing, protecting. But a woman doesn't fall into intimacy through logic. She falls when emotion runs ahead of reason, when her body moves before her mind catches up, when your silence makes her heartbeat race, when your voice makes her forget the time. That's the edge, that's the gateway. And the man who understands this doesn't push. He pulls without pulling. He notices how her breath catches, how her eyes linger when she thinks you won't notice. He doesn't react. He responds through calm presence. He doesn't need to say, I want you. He says, I like how you look when you're holding something back. Now, she's spiraling. Now her ego is exposed. Her mask slips, and you've touched something deeper than her skin. You've touched her psychology. Because women don't crave the man who just sees their body. They crave the man who sees behind their defense. The man who reads them. The man who makes them feel seen without needing to say much at all. And here's the secret sauce. When a woman feels like she initiated, like she took the first step, even if it was subtle, that moment burns into her memory. She replays it again and again. Why? Because it gave her two intoxicating emotions at once. Empowered and overwhelmed, in control and totally consumed. That's the sweet spot. That's the fantasy. That's the difference between being remembered for a night and being etched into her desire forever. So how do you deliver this in the real world? You don't rush. You don't overtalk. You don't give her every answer. You speak slowly. You pause between thoughts. You create silence and let it hum between you like electricity. You don't say, come over. You say, I was planning to spend tonight alone, unless something changes. You don't say, I want you. You say, you're distracting as hell. You leave breadcrumbs and she follows. Not because she has to, because she needs to, because her body wants to know where it leads. This is why real intimacy isn't born from asking. It's born from creating a moment she doesn't want to leave, from becoming the man she can't stop thinking about because you gave her the fantasy of freedom and the illusion of control. And she gave you her body like it was the most natural decision in the world. That's not manipulation. That's psychological seduction at the highest level. And the men who master this never have to ask. They just create the space and let her walk across the line herself. 3. When you lead the moment, she gives you everything. There's a reason she didn't respond to your compliment. A reason she changed the subject when you hinted at taking things further. And it's not because she wasn't interested. It's because you made her lead, and she didn't feel safe doing it. Understand this. A woman doesn't open when she feels responsible for the moment. She opens when she senses you're already holding the frame, emotionally, energetically, psychologically. When a woman feels your hesitation, your doubt, your over-analysis, her body shuts down. Because deep in her instincts she senses, this man wants me, but he doesn't know how to lead me. And if you can't lead her emotionally, she'll never trust you with her body, period. Here's what most men don't realize. Women aren't waiting for permission to surrender. They're waiting for a man who knows how to hold that surrender once it's offered. To hold it without shaking, without rushing, without needing it to validate his worth. The man who knows this doesn't ask, "Should I kiss her?" He reads her. He feels the moment. He senses the current of tension building between them. And when the energy aligns, he doesn't pounce. He moves slowly, deliberately, with absolute presence. Because he knows she doesn't need to be asked if she's ready. She needs to feel that he is. When you lead the moment, she gets to let go. She gets to relax. She gets to stop calculating, stop protecting, stop performing. And that's when her true femininity awakens. That's when she starts reaching for you, not out of compliance, but out of craving. Not because you pressured her, but because your energy whispered, "I've got this." That's the moment she gets wet, without knowing why. That's when her breath changes. That's when her nervous system recognizes she can finally collapse into the moment. Because you're not a boy playing bold, you're a man who doesn't flinch. And here's the brutal truth. Most women have never experienced that. A man fully grounded, fully present, fully unmoved by outcome. They're used to men who rush, who beg, who act confident until the moment she pulls back, then turn into boys again, insecure, shaky, trying to earn it back. But the Stoic man, he doesn't chase, he contains, he becomes the frame, he becomes the calm in her chaos. Because feminine energy isn't meant to be tamed, it's meant to be held. It wants to swirl, to spill, to erupt, but only in the presence of something strong enough to anchor it. So if you want real intimacy, not just her body but her soul, don't escalate, lead. Slow everything down. Say less. Let your eye contact speak. Let your breath control the room. Let your hands guide without grasping. And she'll feel it. She'll feel you. And here's what happens next. She starts leaning in. Her laughter softens. Her touch lingers. She mirrors your tempo. Because now, she's not being pushed. She's being pulled into your gravity. And when the moment comes, she gives you everything. Not because she felt pursued, but because she felt chosen. Because for the first time, she got to drop the weight. To stop carrying the emotional burden, to stop being the leader. And that's what women are starving for. Not just pleasure, not just romance, but relief. And the only man who gives her that relief is the one who leads, not with force, but with presence. Not with pressure, but with certainty. He doesn't ask, "Is this okay?" He lets his stillness say, "This is yours," when you're ready. And when she is, she won't hesitate, she won't hide, she won't forget. Because real intimacy isn't asked for, it's created. And the man who creates it owns her memory forever. She doesn't want a checklist. She doesn't want negotiation. She wants to be moved, not with pressure, but with presence. She wants to feel your certainty, to feel your silence, to feel your calm, masculine gravity pulling her in, until her only choice is surrender. If you're becoming the man who creates presence instead of pressure, who leads instead of seeking permission, drop a comment below that simply says, "I don't ask, I attract." And if this video awakens something in you, something still, ancient and powerful, something modern life tried to make you forget, like this video, subscribe for more Stoic seductive insight. Because the world needs more grounded men, men who don't chase approval. They command energy, they create safety, they awaken desire, and they leave a memory that doesn't fade. Not because they performed, but because they led. This is Stoic Reflections, and this is just the beginning.